Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
Okay, we talked about this. I find the census thing fascinating. From time to time, you and I sort of diverge into census statistics. We talked about this just yesterday. We talked about Mayor Pete, who's from South Bend, Indiana, and we figured out that
Pothole Pete, Brad. Pothole Pete.
Pothole Pete. Hold on a minute. I'm a little bit under the weather this morning, John, so bear with me. Okay, we figured out that the city of Columbia, Missouri, is about 30,000 people larger than South Bend. I think when South Bend was right around 100,000, wasn't that? And I think
103, something like that. Yeah.
And Columbia had like 129. Okay, what's interesting about this is everybody talks about the census, and this is actually in the Constitution, where every 10 years, in the even years like 2000, 2010, 2020, they have a census, and the government counts the people. But what's interesting about this is during the 10-year period, they give updates, and they're not super in-depth, but they're good benchmarks as to where areas are headed. And one of these came out on Tuesday. Did you know about this?
Yeah, I saw it.
And they were released on Tuesday. What's interesting about this is, according to the estimates, Missouri gained roughly 19,000 residents. This is just in 1 year, from July 1st, 2022 to July 1st, 2023. Illinois lost 33,000 residents in a year. So Missouri in a year gained 19,000. Illinois lost 33,000. The interesting thing for me was they gave the top 10 cities that are growing in the state of Missouri, and two of them are right in our Westplex area. Guess which ones they are?
They are, I'm guessing, Wentzville and O'Fallon?
You're wrong. Dardenne Prairie and Lake St. Louis. Dardenne Prairie and Lake St. Louis. Okay, now, here's what's also interesting. City of St. Louis, between 2020 and 2023, down another 6%.
Holy cow.
I mean, to the point where I think it's like 276,000 people. Now, keep in mind right now, St. Charles County, and I didn't see the newest number for that, the aggregate number for St. Charles County. I would estimate from what they're saying with the various communities. And by the way, Wentzville and O'Fallon did grow as well, too. And I believe St. Peter's grew as well, too.
It does. I have it up. And for folks who want to read this, I had it up over the weekend, Brad. It didn't come out Tuesday, but a lot of news stories picked it up Tuesday. It came out in May, and I have the story up. If folks go to johncombest.com and click on Sunday, Brad, I had this piece up on Sunday, and I also tweeted it out on Sunday as well. Go ahead.
Didn't you find the numbers fascinating?
Yeah, but it's nothing that would surprise you or me or anybody who thinks, maybe we shouldn't go down to the city for that event.
Well, but
see, when you think about a flee to safety.
See, once again, it's really simple. Steve Ellman said it right up front. He said people move to areas that have good life experiences. And specifically, he nails it to two things, especially people who have families. He's nailing it to police protection. Do they feel safe? Is the crime rate low? I mean, there's no place you're going to go where there's going to be no crime. That's just a fact of life. But is the crime rate low? Do you feel safe? And also, do you feel that the educational system is providing a good education for the kids in that community? Two key benchmarks, okay? And once again, look at the city. The schools have been in turmoil for years and years and years and years. They were uncredited for a long time. Obviously, police protection is not what it should be. They're still short, 400 or 500 officers. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the city. I just find it fascinating that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that. And the other interesting part of it is, look at what's happened in certain areas of the state of Missouri. Mid-Missouri has had quite a few of counties have, increase in population. Why is that? Quality of life. For the most part, Columbia has, excellent crime statistics. Once again, there's crime in Columbia. I get it, but it's not like the city of St. Louis, and you have a nice environment. I know you go to Jefferson City all the time, John, but I love.
Oh yeah, I mean 3 times a week.
I love Jefferson City. The running joke is that I was somewhat surprised at Jefferson City, or with John Combest, when he made a trip. Was it last week or the week before last?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. John tells me he's going to do the show from Jefferson City one morning because he's going down for some business or whatever he's doing in Jefferson. He went down on Scott Fawn and was on the show and the whole bit, where he essentially admitted that I'm the straight man, but that's a whole other story. But essentially, I said to John, I go, John, how often do you get to Jefferson City? Well, I haven't been there 19 years. Wasn't that what you said? 19?
Yeah, it was 15. Yeah, 15 years.
I've gone to Jefferson City probably in the past 15 years, probably maybe 40, 50 times, and you've been there.
I don't have as many cars as you do to register, Brad. Let's face it.
I've had other reasons to go to Jefferson City, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, the population thing I thought was fascinating because of the fact
it is.
Because it shows you, and I guess it's sort of one of those feel-good things that for us, a radio station and our other station, Westplex 107.1, a station that caters to this area, essentially, I guess you could call it the western collar suburbs of the St. Louis metro area, which would include Franklin County, St. Charles County, and even Warren County. Warren County is growing. Wright City is growing. We had that story last week about the huge new meat processing plant that's supposed to go in at Wright City. What does that say about the area? Now, let me talk about that. First off, population, okay? I went to North County yesterday, okay? And it's been a while since I've gone way up in North County. And the reason for that was I was buying something off of Facebook Marketplace. And quite honestly, I got a good deal, but I didn't, because when I got the thing back, I realized it's missing one more part than I thought it was missing. I got a heck of a deal on a piece of, once again, what do I buy in Facebook Marketplace? I buy tools. I buy stuff like that. And this is essentially a sheet metal brake. You know what a sheet metal brake is?
I do know what a sheet metal brake is. Yeah, hey, I took sheet metal in shop class.
Right. This is what they call a mini brake. It's a 4-foot brake. So in other words, you can bend aluminum at 4 feet wide, and it's missing one part. I'm going, oh, crap. And I didn't realize until I got it back and looked at it closely. Anyway, here's the interesting part of this situation. The guy gives me his address. I plug it into my GPS. I go up into North County, go east on 270, get off at New Halls Ferry. First off, there are homeless people living underneath 270 right there on New Halls Ferry. Literally, they have a small homeless encampment right there. Secondly, when you go north on New Halls Ferry, a lot of the places I used to go to back in the day, right across the street from where White Castle is, used to be a Casa Guillardo, which ultimately turned into last time it was a Olive Garden. It's closed and it's all boarded up. Quite a few places along New Halls Ferry are boarded up. Okay. When I get close to where I'm supposed to turn and the nice lady on my GPS is telling me to turn right, I have a flashback to when I was 16 years old, okay? And this is sort of a weird story because the flashback was I'm turning into a subdivision where I almost got thrown in jail.
Oh, wow. Tell us, Brad, what happened?
When I worked at Steak and Shake, there was a guy, I'll mention his name. His name is Bill Quick. I believe Bill is still alive. Bill ultimately became an attorney. Bill has an interesting background. As Bill got mad at his parents when he was, I think, a senior in high school, and he literally went out on I-70 and hitchhiked and ended up someplace in Denver, or literally hitchhiked west on 70. Then he went to the Air Force Academy. He got an appointment to the Air Force Academy, and he hated the Air Force Academy. So he dropped out after like 7 or 8 months or something like that. Came back to St. Louis, took a girlfriend away from me. How about this, from knowing all this kind of stuff? I was dating a girl. He started dating her, and one time he decided he was not happy with me, and he gave my parents a lawn job, and he bragged about the fact that he did it because he thought I was a jerk, and he had my girl, and I didn't, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm driving him home. We worked together at Steak and Shake, and there was a young lady who worked in the inside who sometimes her sister worked. There were two girls, two sisters that worked the same shift. Sometimes they worked together, sometimes they didn't. When they didn't work together, the younger of the two did not have her driver's license yet, so I used to drop her off in the subdivision. It turns out this is this subdivision. I drop her off, I got Bill in the car with me. We go into the subdivision, drop her off at her house, way back in the subdivision. I come back, and as soon as I'm getting ready to turn on a new Halls Ferry, I get lit up by the police car behind me, which I didn't know was behind me. I get out of the car. He gets on the PA system, get out of the car, hands against the roof. We both get out of the car. We stand with our, legs spread, hands against the roof. A cop waits for another car. He comes in front of us. They've got it blocked in. And he proceeds to tear me a new anal orifice. And he's yelling at me. He's screaming at me. I'm going like, okay, what did I do? It turns out that, and this is how the story sort of boils down to the fact that there was somebody driving through the subdivision, burning their tires off, laying rubber, as we used to call it, doing burnouts and stuff like that. And apparently somebody heard this noise, and by the time they got to their front window, opened up their drapes and saw me drive by in a red station wagon. So they called police and reported that a red station wagon was tearing people's lawns up and burning rubber and blah, 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 blah. So the police come in the subdivision, and I'm driving out of the subdivision after dropping this young lady off. And for an hour, this guy is yelling at me and screaming at me. I mean, to the point where I didn't do anything. And and this is the funny part of it. I'm driving my old 62 Pontiac station wagon, which is my first car I ever bought, which I paid $100 for, which at the time had, 220,000 miles on it. And it was sort of a dog. And once again, it was a station wagon, so it's big and heavy, okay? And he kept saying, I know you're burning your tires off in the subdivision. And I literally handed him the keys and said, Officer, you are more than welcome to start my car up. And I guarantee you, you cannot get my tires to burn rubber because the engine is not in that good a shape. Hey, well, I don't believe that. I could probably get in there and probably light those tires up. Officer, here's my keys. Go do it. Okay, now, the reason I bring this up is that it's always bothered me when you hear the people talking about driving while black. Okay, right? Yep. I've talked about this for years. When I worked at Steak and Shake, and I worked 3 nights a week, so during the weeknights, I'd get off at, we'd close at 1 o'clock. By the time we get out, there'd be 1:30. So I'm a young kid driving home at, 1:30, 1:45 in the morning, on a school night. And on the weekends, when we worked a Friday and Saturday night shift, we closed at 2, which meant we didn't get out of there till probably 2:30, 2:45, which means I'm driving home at 3:15 in the morning. I can almost, if I would have kept a journal of this, I could tell you I got pulled over at least once a week. There were weeks when, if I worked 3 nights a week, I got pulled over 3 nights a week. Florissant, St. Louis County, even in Ferguson a couple times, because I worked at the Steak and Shake up there in Lindbergh, which is gone now. It's an IHOP. But sometimes, I lived off of Claudine, the infamous Claudine, where that big fight took place between the two girls from Hazelwood East not too long ago. And sometimes I would drive 367 all the way up to, or Lindbergh up to 367, go down 367 to Claudine. Occasionally, I will just take, I would go down Florissant Road or something like that, pick up 270 and drive 270 east to go north on 367, or even get off at Bell Fountain and go to my house, okay? I'm telling you, there were weeks when I got pulled over 3 nights a week. And why? Because I'm a young guy out driving at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah. And isn't it fair? Now, do you think it's fair for the police? This is a leading question. Don't you think at that time it was fair for the police to pull over a young man in a car that was driving at whatever time in the morning?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
No, because of the fact that, once again, see, in my life, I've had 2 traffic tickets. 2 traffic tickets, okay? To give an example of what a speed demon I am, one of my traffic tickets was in Charlac for 26 and a 20. And I've sold this story before. And people go, you got a ticket for 6 miles an hour? You were doing 26 and a 20? Yes, I got a ticket for that. My other one was I bought a car from my boss, Karen Carroll, and I didn't realize that somebody had changed the tires and wheels on the car, and the speedometer was not calibrated. I'm out at Earth City. I'm going in the old days when you shipped something UPS, you had to drive it out to Earth City where the terminal was. And I'm going north on Earth City Expressway, and I see the cops running radar going the other way because the highway split at that point in time. And I see it, so when I drive through, I look at my speedometer, speed limit says 45. I look at my speedometer, I'm doing 45. I get a ticket for 55. The tires were the wrong tires, and it screwed up the speedometer. And I explained it to the officer. Too bad. I went to court, got the ticket thrown out. Okay, that's the extent of my driving career. I have probably driven, coming up on, in my lifetime, close to 3 million miles. Okay, 3 million miles.
You should wait a minute. You should run for governor, Brad. That's all we care about. How many miles have you put on your car?
3 million miles.
3 million? You're the new governor.
3 million miles. Yeah, take that, Mark McCluskey, right?
That's right. Oh, don't say that name. You're going to end up calling him. Go ahead, Brad. I was being frivolous.
You know what, John? We haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, have we? Let me call him real quick. I'm just kidding, John. John hates to want to do that. The point being is, I've never been the crazy guy. Matter of fact, is at times.
No, you have been the crazy guy. You got to finish that sentence, Brad. You can't end a sentence with "I've never been the crazy guy" because you're usually the crazy guy.
I've never been the crazy guy when it comes to driving. I've actually had people who've driven with me say, "Wow, you're a pretty safe driver."
Because that doesn't fit with your personality.
Well, I guess not. I'm going like, but because you know how some people are. Some people are. You probably know. Everybody knows one of these people that. They talk with them and they're nice and they're cordial and get in the car. You get out of my way, you butthead. They turn into like.
We talk about Shelley Barr like she's not listening. Oh wait, she's not listening. Okay, we can talk about Shelley Barr. Go ahead.
Speed demon Shelley, who on several occasions I'm driving along 364 or 70 and she passes me like doing 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, and I would call her on it, and then she would deny. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Okay, you have personalized plates on your car. It's pretty hard to miss your car, Shelley. That wasn't me. I wasn't home. I was home when it happened yesterday. No, you were doing 95 in a 60. Don't tell me you weren't, because I knew how fast you drove by me. That was it. But you know what I'm talking about. You probably know people.
I know how Shelley is now. So you've taken us down memory lane, which is quite literally New Halls Ferry Road.
Yeah.
My name is Ralph Edwards. When we come back on This Is Your Life, we're going to have Bill Quick and his ex-girlfriend, Hammy Tasty Trollop, tell us a little bit more about what it was like to be with Brad at Steak and Shake. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
No, you have to say we'll be back in 2 and 2. That's what you have.
We'll be back in 2 and 2.
Yeah, 2 and 2. That makes more sense. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?